Hey everybody, this is Jeff coming to you from the Good News Gathering Ministry Center with another edition of the Good News. And this is a good day in the life of our country. It's the day our country has set aside as the National Day of Prayer. It's a blessing to live in a country that can still recognize, at least to some degree, the importance and the power of prayer. What's fascinating is that the origins of the National Day of Prayer actually predate the Declaration of Independence. When America was still 13 British colonies, cities and colonies set aside days for fasting and prayer in response to the rising tensions between the colonies and the mother country. During the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress proclaimed a day of fasting and prayer, and General George Washington permitted his troops, whenever possible, to observe the day. In 1952, at the height of the Korean War, President Harry Truman signed into law a bill proclaiming the National Day of Prayer. And in 1988, President Ronald Reagan designated the first Thursday in May each year as the official day for the National Day of Prayer. This day calls on all citizens of the United States to pray for our nation and our leaders. And I'm asking every member of the G&G family to spend a few moments today on this National Day of Prayer to pray the words spoken by God to King Solomon in 2 Chronicles 7:14. You might want to write that down, 2 Chronicles 7:14. And it goes like this. These are God's words to the leader of the nation of Israel. God said, "If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land." Notice God framed this in terms of if, then. If my people, that's us, the people of God through faith in His Son. If my people who are called by my name, through Christ we are adopted into God's family. We bear His name. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, in other words, submit our lives to God and pray, to honestly and earnestly approach God and seek my face, to seek His will and His direction for our lives, in turn from their wicked ways, to confess our sins and turn away from any wicked way in us, then God will hear our prayer. God will forgive our sins. God will heal our land. You know, I can't imagine a prayer more appropriate than this for the time we are now living in. But remember, it's an if-then proposition. If we want Him to hear our prayer, forgive our sins, and heal our land, it begins with humble-hearted prayer and a change in us. Interestingly, the Apostle Paul in 1 Timothy 2:1 and 2 advised a young pastor as follows. He said this, "I urge you, first of all." Now think of those words, urge, this is serious. And he says, first of all, this is a priority. So what is he urging Timothy to prioritize? He says, "I urge you, first of all, to pray for all people. Ask God to help them, intercede on their behalf, and give thanks for them." And then he says this, "Pray this way for kings and all who are in authority, so that we can live peaceful and quiet lives, marked by godliness and dignity." Now don't miss what he's saying here. Paul is urging us to pray for those in authority, to ask God to help them, to intercede for them, and to give thanks for them. This is amazing. Actually, a better word for it may be stunning. It's stunning when you realize that Paul wrote this when the Roman Empire was ruled by a vicious, amoral megalomaniac named Nero. Paul urged Timothy to pray for the king or Caesar, who would later order Paul's execution. We must never forget, friends, what a blessing it is to live in a country that for the past 250 years has guaranteed that we can live peaceful and quiet lives marked by godliness and dignity. So it's important for us to pray for our nation and our leaders. That doesn't mean we have to agree with every decision they make, but it does remind us that they are faced with making difficult decisions that impact people's lives every day. It's a tough task. The burden of leadership can weigh heavily, especially in times like these. It's a burden few of us would want to bear. Fortunately for us, our governor has begun to ease some of the restrictions that were imposed several weeks ago. Thus far, the impact of the pandemic on Ohio has been less than originally expected. In addition to health services, manufacturing, construction, distribution, and general offices, which reopened in the past week, retail services will begin reopening next Monday. The governor indicated that guidelines for the reopening of other services, like restaurants and barbershops, will be determined in the next several days. In keeping with the current guidelines, G&G reopened the church office this past Monday. It's been a joy to see our staff face to face rather than on a screen. While we're getting more comfortable with online meetings, there's nothing like being in the same room with coworkers that you love and respect. This is especially true when you're discussing issues regarding something we all care about deeply, the G&G family. As I said previously, we're keeping a close eye on the guidelines involving limits on the number of people who can gather at one time. When it comes to resuming our regular Sunday morning services, here's a reality we have to face. First, if the limit moves up from 10 to 50 or 100, many churches will be able to resume their services right away. While we rejoice with those churches that will be in a position to reopen, we are in a different position due to our size. So the staff and the leadership team have been grappling with how we create small or medium-sized gatherings that will allow us to begin meeting together again while doing our best to safeguard the health of our church family. One of the things this stay-at-home order has shined a spotlight on is the importance of our life groups. Many of them are now meeting online. But as the government relaxes the restrictions, our life groups will be able to resume meeting in person. The leadership team and staff are currently working on plans for phasing back in to live, in-person public gatherings. It's likely to be a while before this can happen, probably longer than any of us would like, but we are moving toward that day. So today, as you observe our National Day of Prayer and pray for our nation and its leaders, please take a moment to pray for all those who lead at G&G. Navigating this crisis and the separation caused by the stay-at-home order has not been easy, but God has used this time for good. More of our people are making an intentional effort to connect with their church family, and our people are reaching out and serving people in their neighborhoods. For the past 22 years, I've taught in Class 101 that two of G&G's core values are groups and service. You see, we believe that small groups are a powerful environment for spiritual growth. And we believe that when our people serve, they emulate Christ's example of selfless service. We are seeing these core values lived out in exciting ways during this time. And if you'd like more information about our life groups or serving at G&G, fill out one of our online Connect cards. It's on the front page of our website, at the top right, or at the bottom on our app. As we close, let's remember the words of Jesus' half-brother James. In James 5:16, he wrote these words, "When a believing person prays, great things happen." You see, our prayers for our country, our leaders, and our church family matter. And when we, as a family, pray, we can expect great things to happen. And that, friends, is good news. I love you all, and I miss you. We'll get together again next Thursday for more good news, and I hope and pray that we'll be able to get together in person soon. Take care, everybody.